everyone, welcome to Strategica channel. My name is Lerato. I'm from Strategica Wealth Managers, and if I haven't said this before, I work as the investment and financial advisor. And joining me today is Memo Khansulitsela, who works as our financial analyst. So we're going to be discussing something that has been making a lot of rounds in social media and the news, which is, wait for it, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Okay. So we're going to discuss it and try to actually, what are we going to do, Mama Khanso?
Well, we're going to try to unpack the events and try to see how they could ultimately affect us as consumers and as people who are trying to get a hold of their finances.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're going to look at it from a financial perspective, how this is going to affect us. So without any delay, let us jump straight into it.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone. So we'll just discuss the first point, which I think everyone has noticed. If you haven't, it means you're either walking to work or using a bicycle. And that is our fuel price.
Fuel price. I think people will be interested in knowing how, what caused the fuel price to increase the way they are, and to what extent it could possibly go.
Okay. I think so. The main thing that we need to, first of all, to let everyone know, just in case people don't know, is that Russia and Ukraine are one of the biggest exporters of crude oil. So crude oil is actually the raw oil where your petrol and your diesel gets and paraffin gets extracted. So with that said, what this means is that us in Africa, or in Lesotho and South Africa, people who actually, countries that actually do not have the resources, have the crude oil, it means that we need to import the oil.
Right.
So the war has caused a shortage in the market because one, the Western world has sanctioned Russia from supplying oil. So then that means that the world supply is under pressure, and automatically that means that the oil prices are going to go up. Right. So that is one aspect of looking at it. There's oil shortage, oil shortage of supply actually, and which causes prices to increase. Yeah. So
there's also, I was about to talk about the American economy, how it's been doing very well recently, and since the barrel is quoted in dollars and the dollar is appreciating, it means that the price per dollar is going to go up as well.
Yeah. So it means for us, we're actually using our domestic currencies to purchase these barrels of oil that are quoted in US dollars. It's now costing us more in terms of the regional or the domestic currency to purchase the oil. So then that means the price increase is in two forms. The foreign exchange, that happens because the dollar has appreciated, and then the first aspect that we had discussed, which is due to the drop in supply, which causes the prices to go up. So ultimately what this means is that until this war, which we don't know how long it's going to last, until everything is sorted out, it means we might see price increases when it comes to our fuel coming up in the next quarter. We know that for April there's also an anticipated price hike, and we should be seeing a liter going into around 23 to 24 maluti, but with us, likely because of government subsidies, it might be going from 18 rand now to around 21 rand, and countries like South Africa, it could be around 24 rand a liter of petrol. So with that said, I think that covers the fuel one. But we do have an article that we wrote about how people can actually manage with this fuel hikes, because there are a few points that we discussed in the blog. We will, however, link it in the description below so that people can have a read. But one exciting thing that I think we had discussed in the blog was having our riding clubs, or sharing our transport to work.
The carpool.
Yeah, the carpool. Yeah. So so the carpool, as it works, is just as people in one area who work in the same area, we actually interchange, or let's say this week I'm the one who's driving everyone. So if I have a car, that means I have space for three people. 4? 3. Okay, 4, depending on how tight you want your car to be. So it's either 3 or 4 spaces you have. And then for this week, I can take people to work with me and drop them off after work. And then next week, one of the people who rides with us can do the same. And that means, one, we'll be saving on fuel because it means one person is actually taking care of the fuel for that particular week. And secondly, it also means your car is actually going to not experience as much wear and tear. So please be aware of that.
Right.
And then with that said, Mem Khansa, we're going to move on to the second point.
Right. The second point is the oil.
Cooking oil.
In particular, the sunflower oil.
Yes. So I'm sure everyone has seen that picture of the rye bread oil that was making rounds, and it was close to 100 rand, right? So yeah. So
that was hectic.
Yeah, so that was hectic. So before we go into it, I think I'm not even too sure how true that was, but given the current Ukraine and Russia war that's been going on, the supply of sunflower oil is going to be affected. So Mem Khansa will explain quickly why that is.
So basically, Ukraine is one of the largest producers of sunflower oil. So the invasion of Russia into Ukraine has made it difficult for Ukraine to continue the production and exportation of the oil. So only in a lot of households, especially sunflower oil, because it's the cheaper oil. It's the cheaper oil. It's already for cooking, for baking, for
frying.
That's everything. So even in manufacturing, for making like potato chips and things like that. So I think people would like to know what to prepare for, what to look out for in terms of the oils. If there are any alternatives maybe to the sunflower oil, what should they do?
Okay, so I think one important thing you've mentioned that given that sunflower oil is a cheaper oil. So it's what people mostly use in the households. Right. Your olive oils and the other types of oil, which might be healthier, tend to be on the expensive side. So when we are trying to manage our monthly grocery shopping, oil has to now be a thing that we look out for. But for me, I think one thing that people can start doing is trying to look for an alternative. A very good alternative, which is also even a healthier version, is coconut oil. It might get a bit of getting used to because of the maybe the smell,
the taste.
and the taste. Some people don't actually like it, but it could be a cheaper version instead of using the actual sunflower oil. So I think that's one thing we also need to look out for, is that for us who in Lesotho who are actually importers. Lesotho is an importer of this oil because we don't have sunflower seeds of our own. So we are importing this oil, and very quickly we are going to see the oil prices going up. And so when we are doing our monthly grocery shopping, we actually now have to make that conscious choice as to whether am I going to buy the oil, or am I actually going to take the alternative to the oil? Yeah, so we can see that coming up. And in terms of economics, we're going to see our basket, I think, when they do our monthly statistics. You normally find that cooking oil forms a part of our basket when it comes to the price inflation that gets calculated. Yeah. So the third point that we're going to discuss is wheat. Wheat, and more wheat. And more wheat. And wheat, because again, the other aspect that we're trying to talk about is wheat, and we have Russia and Ukraine being one of the world's biggest exporters of wheat. So they export a lot of grain, and wheat is one of them. And South Africa and Lesotho are very big importers of wheat, because in each and every household, yeah, so boholo means is there in everyone's lunchbox for breakfast. When our children go to school, we probably pack them sandwiches for lunch. All of these things are using what? Wheat. So wheat prices as well, because of the Russia invasion into Ukraine, our the supply of wheat is also compromised, and once it's compromised, it means that the price, like the oil price, is going to go up due to that lack of supply that is there, because probably Russia and Ukraine are deciding because they don't know how long the war is going to last. They're probably now putting more reserves aside for themselves to make sure that the locals actually don't suffer. So us on the other end, who are importers of this, we're going to see this translating into higher wheat prices, higher prices of our flours. So mainly for other countries like Egypt, which imports around 80% of its wheat. So, and they're definitely going to see the price hikes. South Africa imports around 40% of their wheat as well. So that means ultimately we're going to see that transition. Yeah, we're definitely going to see the price hikes when it comes to wheat. And the loaf of bread is probably going to go up as well. Yeah. So I don't know if we have alternatives to bread, but we need to find other ways.
Corn?
Corn. You can actually. You can have cornbread.
I've never tried it before.
Neither have I. But mama makes a muchaslama. Muchaslama, it's muchaslama, but it's wheat and pufia. And bab, yes. Yeah, it's a traditional dish. So it's probably time to start thinking of stuff like
going
that.
back to
our roots.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So next up, we are going to talk about natural gas. Russia is one of the largest producers of natural gas. So obviously the war, or the invasion rather, is going to affect that production. So can you unpack that for us a little bit?
So when it comes to natural gas, this is actually a raw material that goes into the production of fertilizers.
Right.
And fertilizers, we know, for very farming intensive countries, it's one of the inputs that farmers use in terms of food production. So ultimately, if there is a shortage of the natural gas, then there's going to be a shortage of fertilizers. And if there's a shortage of the fertilizers, but the demand is still very high, the prices are just going to go up automatically as well. So it means it's going to be expensive for the farmers to purchase the fertilizers. And once that becomes expensive, it means that the food that they're going to produce is also going to go up. Yeah. So it means what we're going to be seeing probably going into this second quarter of 2022 is increases in food prices, yes. So especially those that we're sure are grown locally as well. So we're going to see a huge price hike in the food. Yeah.
That coupled with the increase in the fuel prices, that's transportation as well.
Yeah. So that means you're going to have the transportation because one, Lesotho also imports most of the foods that we are actually consuming. So transport prices due to the oil increases, and then the fertilizer as well for farmers on the other side. So it means we are actually going to see a lot of price hikes coming into second quarter of 2022. So it means as families and as consumers, we need to start finding ways of how to stretch our budgets, you know. So we need to now be very, very aware where we are spending our money and how we're actually spending it, because it means you are now going to, because of inflation basically, it means for whatever you used to buy for 100 rand or for 100 baloti, it's now going to buy less. So it means as a person who's managing that household, how do you now make the decisions to make sure that given the current budget that we used to use beginning of the year still is able to cover everything else, because unfortunately our salaries and income are not increasing. They're not increasing at the same rate. So basically our purchasing power is going down. So now we need to make those tough decisions as people who are running households. How do we improve or make sure that our lifestyle stays the same, but with us making clever choices to make sure that we are spending in the right places. Yeah. So then that brings us to the fifth point and last point. So this one I think is a bit technical because it comes with and it's one of the sanctions that Russia has had to endure that have been imposed by the Western world, which is its sanction from SWIFT. So SWIFT is actually an international payment system where all these bank or financial institutions subscribe to, and then they send each other messages, and as the messages go by, then money moves around. So basically that's how it works in a nutshell. But now we have Russia being sanctioned from this international payment system, meaning that as a person who's sitting in Russia today, you probably can't use the same method of payment that you used to use.
Right.
So that seamless transfer of money from Russia to Lesotho, for instance, might prove to be more difficult. So people also need to be aware of that there may be delays for people who are involved in international trade. For instance, if for instance now we need to find alternative ways as to how our money will reach from Lesotho to Russia and from Russia to Lesotho. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that is one thing that people would also like to be very aware of, even though it's said that Russia has its own payment system that that they have been using. It might not be as popular as SWIFT, but probably it would be an alternative.
Right.
There's the Union Pay as well that is actually owned by China. That could also be an alternative. But these are things that we need to be aware of because they're actually going to impact our livelihood going forward. Yeah. Alrighty then. So I guess that brings us to the end, right, Memkhanso? Or do you still have more
I
stuff?
think that's all I had. If you guys would like us to talk about anything else to do with the Russia-Ukraine war, please leave a comment down below.
Alright. And remember to subscribe and to like the video and give it a thumbs up. And remember that we do want to bring more content to you that is relevant to your life, so please do get the conversation going by leaving comments and telling us what it is that you'd like us to actually share with you, and to make sure that everyone else is on this bus that we are on as we try to create a generation of people who are very money wise and they're actually in control of their money. So thank you for watching and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.